and gentlemen, welcome back to Skolora Dance Sport. On this beautiful Veterans Day, in our Veterans segment, we have Airman First Class Paul Franklin from the 36th Security Forces Air Force Squadron in Guam. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. How's the weather today in Guam?
It's good. It's normally raining, but sunny outside so far.
Nice. So listen, let's talk a little bit about your dance career. How did you begin to dance?
So my mother was in the dance program when I was 7 years old, and I wanted to be a part of it. It looked fun, so I asked my mom to join, and I started.
So once you started, throughout the years, you clearly had a very nice, competitive, and proud career. What would you say was your proudest moment during this dance career?
Probably be when I got into like the open categories, when I won my first championship level competition in, I think, novice or pre-champ would probably be my most my happiest time in my dance career.
Very nice. As a 10 dancer, because I think we all know that you competed both Latin and the standard style, as a 10 dancer, what did your training consist of on a day-to-day basis?
Lots of rounds.
Lots of rounds. Elaborate.
Yeah, so I'll just literally do rounds like 2 minutes each, over and over and over. I mean, obviously, when we're not doing like the technical side of it or working on our frame for standard or our footwork for Latin or anything like that, we're just running rounds, all 5 dances, 10 dances, over and over for hours on end.
I do agree. Yes, 100%. Now, you were national ranking ballroom dancer for years. On the floor, you've competed at many nationals. You've competed at many national qualifying events. So this transition into the Air Force, I would like to ask you, when did you realize that the Air Force was your passion and your calling?
Well, my father was in the Air Force for many years. So it was kind of like I joined the Air Force. I picked the Air Force because my dad did it. But I decided to join the military because I wanted to do something that's bigger than myself. And I think the only way you can do that is by joining the military.
So once you joined the Air Force, how was the transition from dancer to airman like? What thoughts went through your head?
Well, I knew I'm not going to have a lot of time for dancing for a while because, this is a 24-hour, 7 days a week kind of job. So I knew I was sacrificing it. But I mean, the military career, I could do it for 4 years or I could do it for 20 and retire. But I wish to come back to dancing eventually.
We hope to see you on the dance floor very soon. Being a nationally ranked and strong competitor, of course, you had to have physical training. And in the Air Force, of course, you have physical training. Did your PT, your physical training during your dance career, help your Air Force physical training at all?
It somewhat helped. I've always been physically active outside of dancing. Also, I played sports in high school, but there was never really a problem with, the physical aspect in the military. It's pretty easy as long as, you run every once in a while and do some push-ups. But yeah, it helped.
Tell us, what was your basic military training experience like for you?
It was difficult in some aspects. There's a lot of there's a lot in the physical side of it. So a lot of PT and all kinds of things. A lot of push-ups, sit-ups, and running, mostly. Which is all easy. But the hardest part is probably knowing that you're not getting any help from anybody else. So you're kind of in there alone. It feels like at first until you start making friends and you have buddies that will help you out where you're not good at and you can help them out where they're not good at. But yeah, it wasn't hard. It was temporary, so I knew I was getting out of there eventually. So I was just making the best of a bad situation, it felt like.
So you would say it's more about the mentality. As long as you have a strong mentality, then you'll be able to pass, right?
Right. Yeah. It's all mental.
Interesting, interesting. So once you graduated from BMT and you went to your technical school, which brings you to today, which I ask you, what is your current MOS?
So I'm in the security forces. So I defend all like Air Force installations. So we're the first line of defense for any threats, whether that be like terrorists or active shooters or anything like that. There's like the cop side of it. So like we can pull people over for speeding. We do all of like the like weapon training for all the other jobs that may need it for like deployments. We have canine handlers. Our job is very big. There's many different routes to take.
Any aspects?
Yep.
So you mentioned earlier you could possibly be in the Air Force for 4 years, or you could do the whole 20. So I ask you, if you decide to do the full 20, where do you see yourself in the Air Force in the future?
Well, if I decide to do the full 20, I wouldn't be enlisted. I would definitely commission, become an officer. So meaning I would have to go to college and, get smarter. But I mean, yeah, if I did the full 20, I would definitely not do it as an.
I think you will do great things in the Air Force. Which leads me to ask you, what is your favorite thing about the Air Force?
The Air Force, out of all the military branches, has the best food. So definitely that.
Plus,
Yeah, definitely that.
so far you've spent quite a bit of time in the Air Force. So I ask you, who is your biggest mentor in the Air Force? And who was, or possibly still is, your biggest mentor in the dance world?
For the military, definitely be my dad. He tells me a lot of stories and the right things to do in the military. It's way different from like the civilian world. A lot of different rules. So I had like a leg up in front of like the others that are like the same rank as me because my dad already went through it. So he's telling me what not to do and how to not get in trouble. So yeah, definitely the biggest mentor. For the dance world, I would say my parents, both of them, my mom and dad, because they were right there alongside me. They were also dancing together. There was times where I wanted to quit, but they told me not to, like through the hard times. But yeah, I mean, my parents definitely helped me out. Plus, they paid for me.
I have a very interesting question, but the answer seems very clear. Who would you say you feel the most gratitude for both your dance career and your military career?
Definitely my dad, 100%. Yeah, he's helped me out a lot. My mom for my dancing side, but my mom doesn't have not a lot of knowledge for like the Air Force. So yeah, but overall, like where my future is leading, my dad is definitely takes the main role.
All right, we'll keep it in mind.
Might be there.
Very good, very good. I hope you've been brushing up on your cha-cha-cha and tango.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping that frame.
Good, good. All right, Airman Paul, thank you so much for joining me in this interview. I'd like to thank you for your service on this Veterans Day. So thank you so much, and good luck in everything that you do in the future.
All right, awesome. Thank you. You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Scalora Dance Sport on this beautiful Veterans Day. I would like to thank all the veterans who have served the United States of America. I would like to give a big shout out to the veterans who have accepted my invitation to take part in my veterans segment on Scalora Dance Sport. With me today, I have Air Force Captain Retired Stephen Gonzales. Sir, how are you today?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Doing very well. How's the weather today in California?
The weather's actually breeze. It's about to mid 80s, sunny, blue skies.
Beautiful.
Can't beat that for November.
Beautiful, beautiful. Listen, let's begin. So I notice you have a nice background there with the Air Force symbol and many of your achievements. So let's begin from the beginning of your Air Force career. What made you want to join the military?
So growing up, my family and I, we were not exactly well off. We were getting by, put it that way. So I knew while I was in high school that at some point my parents weren't going to be able to send me to college. And at that point too, I wasn't sure what I would do going to college. So I wasn't really preparing myself to go. But my dad being in the Army, he was active duty for a bit, and then he got out and then came back as a reservist and then full-time guard. But him and some of my uncles were an influence on that piece of it, and I've always enjoyed the military. I've always enjoyed everything about, Department of Defense and military and history on the world wars and everything like that. So it always piqued my interest. So the military looked like it was my path, and it was also I guess you can say, my way to get out of where I was growing up. I'm originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and back then it was a very small town. Not a lot to do there. There's not a lot of opportunities. So being able to travel outside of that growing up, I came to experience a lot of the big cities, San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles, Arizona, down there in Arizona, like Phoenix and such. So the big city and everything out there in that big wide world kind of captured my interest as well. And going in the military, that was one of my ways to get out there and see that world. So my father's the one who pushed me to go Air Force, even though he was Army. He was the one that pushed me to go Air Force because he knew a lot of how the training and the facilities and the base locations and everything else were for the Air Force versus the Army. So that's where I kicked in. That's where I swore in, and I did 13 years of enlisted service. And at one point, that's when I got approached by one of my commanders at my last assignment as an enlisted airman, who pushed me to challenge myself more because he saw a lot of potential in what I could do and the way I would do my job and how I took on challenges. So him being a fighter pilot pushed me to get commissioned. So he told me, find a way to go out there and get a commission and I'll gladly endorse it. So I did just that. And I got accepted to go to ROTC at the college level. And I went right there in my home state of New Mexico. So I went down to New Mexico State University. Did 2 years there of ROTC, Air Force ROTC. And I completed my bachelor's degree and got commissioned as a second lieutenant. And while I was right prior to me graduating and getting commissioned, I found out about another program where I can do a delayed, not a delayed enlistment, but an educational delay. It's what it was called.
Right.
And that's where ROTC would let me stay additional time to complete a master's degree. And I got approved for that, so I stayed one more year and finished up my master's degree before I came back on as active duty. And then that's when I did another 13 plus years as an officer and finally reached the pinnacle of 26 total years of active duty service. And finally retired out of that.
Impressed. So would you say that you were a very strong military family as a child?
Yeah, I could say that because I had, like I said, my father was in the military, and then 1, 2, 3 of his brothers went into the military. They didn't stay in as long as he did, but I had quite a bit of them in the military, so it was pretty big.
Now, you say your father specialized in the Army and you went into the Air Force. Well, what did you specialize in the Air Force?
So I did a myriad of jobs. Enlisted Corps, I came in I was assigned to what was called the Air Base Operability Squadron, and we had units of the explosive ordnance disposal and then disaster preparedness. So I was embedded with them, and I did a lot of work, both disposing of ordnance and helping to dispose of confiscated weapons from ATF, FBI, and the local law enforcement areas down there in Tucson, because I was stationed at Davis Monthan. So I helped them out. I also helped out disaster preparedness, and they're the ones that would do the chemical warfare training. They would do a lot of the disaster preparedness with natural disasters, whenever they would occur, and what we would have to do as the military to help out and be a part of that. I got stationed in Rhein-Main up in Frankfurt, Germany after that.
Oh, wow.
There I was embedded with the Aerial Port Squadron, and that is your military version of the kind of like the airport. I'll put it that way.
Impressive.
So you have a PAX terminal where you have literally almost like a airport type setting, and that's where all the military come through that are getting stationed over there in Europe, or they're also transitioning now where they're coming back stateside. Then there's air freight, where I worked most of my assignment there was air freight, and that's where we would build all the pallets with a lot of equipment or supplies or the luggage or whatnot for the passenger flights. But we also had the military cargo planes that would come through, so that would be the C-141s, the C-130s, the C-5s. We would load those, unload those aircraft with all the equipment and support everything. Like back then there was Operation Provide Hope, Support Hope, Provide Promise. Those were all the humanitarian operations that were going on down in Africa. And then there was also the military operations that were going on, like Joint Endeavor, which was dealing with Bosnia and Herzegovina, the civil war that was going on there. And a lot of it also too was supporting like the Army and other NATO allies that were there with equipment transfers and moving. So that would, like you've seen before, where they load the tanks or the helicopters or the big military trucks and armor personnel carriers and so on and so forth. We would load those and unload those on the aircraft there. After that assignment, I got stationed out at Cannon Air Force Base back in New Mexico. That wasn't by choice, but I got there and I was with the fighter squadron. So there I was dealing with I changed over and was doing network administrator. I was dealing a lot with the computer systems that would be in use by the whole squadron there. So I was working for the EF-111s at one point, and then they retired that aircraft, and then I was moved over into an F-16 fighter unit.
Wow.
And then with them, I deployed to the desert a few times with them. Back when I was at Davis Monthan, I did go to Operation Desert Storm, so I was there for that war. I forgot to mention that. And then when I came back on as an officer, I came into what's known as acquisitions. So I was stationed out here in Los Angeles Air Force Base, and here's where I started doing acquisitions. And in that job, I was doing what's called launch vehicle integration. The launch vehicle is the rocket, and out here at Los Angeles Air Force Base, we deal with building satellite systems. So all the military communication satellites, your weather satellites, your spy satellites, some are done out here. And of course, one that's known to everybody is GPS, your GPS satellites. So I did the part of integrating those satellite systems in their container, which is known as a fairing. We would connect that to the top of a rocket in order to launch it up into space and then put it into its particular orbit. So I did that here at Los Angeles for about almost 5 years, and then I got stationed up in the DC area. And there I was working with the National Reconnaissance Office. Now that was the more top secret satellite systems.
Right.
There I was doing the same thing, vehicle integration. Did that for a stint, and then I went into the Inspector General office. I was working there supporting them. After that assignment, I got stationed down at Robins Air Force Base down in Georgia.
In Georgia.
It was a complete change. That's where I went to do acquisitions for aircraft. This was more of the modernization of current airframes. So in other words, we're updating an aircraft to today's standards and get it, to maintain currency and maintain the fighting capabilities that are needed now and not what we needed 10, 15, 20 years ago. I finished my career there, retired, came back in as a civil servant, and I'm pretty much doing the same job that I was doing as an officer, just now I'm not wearing the uniform anymore. So I worked there at Robins still for about another year and a half, doing foreign military sales for the F-15 fighter aircraft with Saudi Arabia. So I did that for a bit. Finally got a job offered to me out here back in Los Angeles. So I came back out here as a civilian, and I'm working in the GPS directorate. So we do the GPS satellites, and good that you brought this up today, that last night we just launched the 4th satellite of the new constellation of GPS satellites.
Wow.
So it was a pretty good
Big
moment.
day. With such an amazing career, this 13 years in the enlisted and 13 years in the officers, how do you feel the Air Force has molded you into the man that you are today?
So it's given me a lot of experiences. It's given me a lot of culture. It's given me a lot of responsibility, and it makes you think on your feet really quick. You have to do things in a moment's notice, but when there's not a rush or there's not a need for getting something done immediately, it also makes you do a lot of critical thinking so that you can make sure that whatever you're tasked to do, you make sure that you follow through and understanding what outcomes or what consequences are going to happen, tell you how to think. And like I said, a lot of it too is experiences. To be able to go live in Germany for 3 years, I mean, not a lot of people can say that.
That's true.
While I was stationed over there, I traveled all over Europe. I did just about every country over there except Denmark and Greece. Those were the only 2 countries all over Europe that I didn't get to. I just ran out of time, but I got to see so much, experience so much.
I believe it.
You get to take that with you, for the rest of your life, because you can always reflect back on it. And a lot of it too is work experiences and job experiences, and you also get to make a lot of friends. You make a lot of new friends, people that you would have never thought that you would have met from different backgrounds, different cultures. You learn so many things, and you keep those friends for life. I mean, there's a lot of, it's a brotherhood. It's a big brotherhood. And, you keep those friends for life, and anytime you're traveling somewhere and you know that friend's there in that location, all you got to do is call them up and you got a place to stay. But it molds you into a very mature individual quickly. Because when you come into the military, you're 18, 19 years old. You're not that mature yet, but the military will push you that way and makes you grow up really fast, because you're going to learn. You're going to learn consequences for your actions, good or bad. So it starts to make you think a lot more about everything that you're doing at any given time. So.
Yes, sir. No, it's very clear you are very passionate about the military. So I ask you, how did you transition as an Air Force officer to competing on the national level in the ballroom dancing world?
So the funny thing is, the whole story started while I was still in college. I was in class, and at that time I was talking with another classmate about some friends and I were going down to El Paso to go out and go do some salsa and merengue dancing down out that way. So this other classmate overheard me, and she asked if I had ever heard of the New Mexico State dance sport team.
Wow.
And I told her no, I didn't. And she started to explain it to me, indicating that it was a dance team that specializes in ballroom dancing. And I looked at her and I said, well, I don't know that kind of dancing. I said, I know salsa, merengue, country western dancing. I know that kind of stuff. I said, but
Right.
I've never done ballroom dancing. She said, well, we need guys. There's always the need for guys. So she really was pushing me to do an audition with a coach to get on the team because they were looking for guys. And so I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. I mean, why not? So they scheduled a tryout. I showed up one day over at the activity center, and the coach and the director were there. And the director, her name is Betty. I want to say it's Betty Davis. She was well known in the ballroom world, and she competed on a lot of levels. So she was the director there. So I had to dance with her. So when they brought up the music and they were putting me to dance, she got into this ballroom hold, and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? I have no idea how to get there.
Right.
So they said, no, relax, just dance. Yeah, so they both said, just dance what you know. We're gonna put on some country music, dance what you know. So they went ahead and did that, so it was pretty good. Did a country waltz and country two-step, and did some country swing, and then they made me do some salsa and merengue. And after that, they talked about it amongst themselves, and they came back and said, all right, we want to take you. We practice every day on these days, show up at this time, and we'll introduce you to the team, and so on and so forth. So I showed up, and it was, sure enough, it was a ballroom team. Everybody there dressed in black, like you see for practice.
Right.
They were going through, typical dance moves at the bronze, different levels, but that's where it started, and it kicked in there. And the more I went, the more I started to really like it. I started to really enjoy it, and I've always enjoyed experiencing new things, but this one had a different capture of me, so I took it from there. And while I was there for that year, that's when I was doing my master's degree. I traveled with them. We came out here to San Diego, competed a couple times.
Wow.
We went down and competed in Arizona. We also competed up in a couple other places, but it was great. I loved that experience. When we did a competition, I was just like, holy cow. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So when I got stationed out here in Los Angeles, I went ahead and asked the coach, I asked him, hey, tell me where I can go to keep doing this. Where can I keep doing this when I get out here in California? They said, well, I got my certifications through Arthur Murray. He said, go to this studio down, and here's one in Long Beach. So I'll go here and start there and, take it from there. So sure enough, as soon as I got here in LA and I got settled, I lived up in Manhattan Beach. So I would travel down to Long Beach to the Arthur Murray studio there, and I started going there, and that's where I got hooked, and I stayed with it. I did it the entire time I was out here. I got stationed, like I said earlier, out in DC. I continued with Arthur Murray out there at Tyson's Corner.
Very nice.
And at that point, that's when I received. And so I had built, at that time, granted it's showing my age, back then they did have a website that they called ballroomdances.com. So when I was out here in California, I kind of started to touch on the independent side outside of Arthur Murray, because Arthur Murray, as you know, is mostly pro-am.
Sure, yes.
On the independent side, at least you can do am. So I kind of started to touch on that end. So what I did is found a website, built a profile, put myself out there, and I actually did find a partner out here for a little bit, and we started doing am competitions. So I was doing both with Arthur Murray and with the independent side. So when I got to DC, I had forgotten about that profile and that webpage. All of a sudden, I get this email one day saying, "You have a new message in your inbox." I was like, "Oh, I forgot about it. I had this." So I went in there, opened the email, and found that there was this lady that was looking for a competitive dance partner in smooth and rhythm. And she had found my profile, and she wanted to set up a tryout. I said, okay. So we started conversing back and forth via email. And she lived up in Delaware, up in Wilmington, Delaware. So I was like, man, that's kind of a hike from where I live. But
Right.
hey, I'll give it a shot. Why not? So I drove up there, ended up going to what's called the Blue Ballroom. And I'm sure a lot of people out there know what Blue Ballroom is. So we went out there, met this lady, went ahead and tried out with her. And she went ahead and made a decision between myself and two other gentlemen to become her partner. And I ended up becoming her partner. And what started out as a partnership ended up being a husband-wife.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
My wife is Natalia Franklin. She is my wife. So that's how we met. So we met that way. We've been competing together since we met. We've been doing that. We got into more of the USA dance, and we were doing the am couples, of course, and we got into smooth and rhythm, and we were doing the 9 dance. We actually competed at Dance Nationals out there in Baltimore. And then out here in LA, that was our best outing because we actually placed second in the 9 dance. And we continued competing. We did that there. We did it in Georgia. And it kind of had to take a pause there for a bit because Paul Franklin was starting to become the focus on the dancing. So his dancing kind of took the spotlight. So we had to kind of focus our time, our energy, and money over his way. So our dancing kind of was here and there, but we still tried to do what we could.
Sure.
And then now that we're out here in California, we were trying to pick it up again. Paul was out here. He did it for a stint before he left to the military. And now Natasha and I are picking it up again. So
amazing.
Trying to get our routines together. COVID's not helping very much, but we're trying to pick that up again and get back out there on a dance floor because we miss it so much.
Yes, sir. Very nice, very nice. Now, when you began to dance, what were your initial thoughts compared to what they are now, today?
I want to say that they haven't really changed that much. Back then, when it first started, it was very exciting. It was fun. It was an experience. It was something new. It was challenging. And it still is today. It's still the same thing. We love to go to these competitions. And I mean, it's grown more because now that we've been out there, and then with Paul dancing as well, you know, we've gone to so many competitions, so many events, so many, you know, workshops, and we visited so many studios and gotten to know so many people that it's grown into a lot of friendships. And it's, you know, to say what I thought of it back then when it first started to where it is now, I got to say it's amazing. It's a great experience. I really enjoyed it, and it's grown. So I have to say it's become even, I guess you could say it's become even better than when I first started, because it was unimaginable how the dance community is and how you can make a lot of good friends and a lot of a lot of connections and meeting people. Again, there it is, like I said with the military, you're meeting new people, different cultures, their backgrounds, you get to make new friends. And there it is again, run into it wherever you go, competitions are passing through, and you can always visit with them.
Right, so there are some similarities between the dance world and the military worlds.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, having experienced both a very successful career in the Air Force and a very successful career in the dance sport world, what has been the biggest life lesson that you have learned in both careers?
One of the biggest life lesson that I've learned from both military and dancing, well, it's always, with both is always, if you want to achieve something, if you want to get someplace, you got to work for it. It's not just going to be given to you. It's not going to be handed to you. It's not just going to fall in your lap. You got to work for it. So both in the military, if you want to get promotions, if you want to get a good assignment, if you want to get any kind of accolades, you got to work for it. Same thing with dancing. If you want to get somewhere, if you want to achieve high levels, you got to work for it. You got to get there. You can't just come into the dance world and go straight to championship level. You got to work your way up. You got to get there. You got to make those sacrifices of practice and time and effort and get there. And eventually it'll pay off. It will. That hard work does pay off.
Yes, sir. Now that answer might transition into my following question, which would be, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to pursue both a military career and a dance career?
You can do both. I kind of passed that on to Paul now that he's in the military. That's something that, you can balance both, because the military career is like a job. You do it depending on your career field or whatever you're doing. You do have your downtime. You can go after your duty day, you can go to the gym on the base, or you can go to the studio that's close by. You can go there and practice. You can also, like in Paul's situation, he's got a lot more abilities right now to where he can turn around and be a part-time coach if he wants to be, with a local studio if he wants to. But with doing both, it gives you an out, to kind of, like Natasha likes to say, when she dances, it takes her to another world, a happy place. And you can do that, with once you finish with your military job during the day, or whatever shift again that you're on, you can go there and kind of forget about everything. Forget about what's going on in the world today, or what happened that day, or what's going on, and escape into dancing, because dancing, of course, has that different kind of
100%,
feel
I agree.
and that ability to take you to another place. Takes you to another place and kind of gives you that feeling of calmness, and you're able to express yourself in different ways that you can't do maybe while you're in uniform or something. But, yeah, I suggest it. I highly suggest it. It's a great thing to do. And of course, Natasha and I got to showcase a lot of times, because anytime we would go to a formal function with the military, they do have dancing, they do have music. So we were able to go out there and dance to music. And of course,
You two were the best
doing
dancers
our own
out
showcase
there,
there, it seems like. So it's awesome to do that, Exactly. And you get a lot of compliments, and a lot of people that come and talk to you and want to engage with you and find out more about it. So see, that's how you pass that on too, because now you start sharing your dance experiences, and then you can also share, hey, this is where I go, this is what I'm doing, here's the studio, this, that, everything else. So you're bringing more people into the dance world, just to help you expand on it.
Yes, that is 100% true. Now, seeing that you have a very both impressive career in both the Air Force and the dance world, like I said earlier, your mindset is very impressive. The way you live life is very impressive to many of the viewers. So I ask you, who motivated your military career and who motivated your dance career?
So mostly my parents, but my father's the one who motivated my military career. Seeing how he was, and in a lot of ways with his good traits, that's what motivated me a lot to go the military route. Plus, there was quite a bit of outside factors, like from school, with history classes and social studies, what they called it then.
Sure, yes.
That's one of the big parts that motivated me in the military. But for my dancing, I got to say that would be the coach that I had there. I still call him coach, and I think he's like about 10 years younger than me, or somewhere around there, and I still call him coach. He laughs about that, but Eric Fierro is his name. We still keep in touch, and he was the one who motivated me that way and kept me going with it. And then, of course, once I was in it, Natasha's she's a big piece of that as well. It keeps me motivated to keep going and dancing.
Beautiful. Well, sir, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Your thoughts and mentality is amazing. You inspired many of our viewers, and me included. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for recognizing that. Hope to see you out there somewhere soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Heroes of the Air Force, Chief White and I want to take this opportunity to thank you and honor those who have valiantly served our country. Our veterans have played a critical role in protecting our nation and shaping the future of America, whether they served in combat or peacetime.
Veterans, help us remember why we serve. They laid the foundation for the greatest military the world has ever known. Veterans are our brothers and our sisters. They understand the true meaning of the words sacrifice and service. I encourage all of you to thank a veteran for their service today and share with them the bond you share.
From all of us in the Air Force Reserve, on this Veterans Day, I want to thank each and every one of you, every veteran, past, present, and future, for your commitment and service to our nation.